Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up, IMF board revises review date for Ghana's program once again over concerns about China's position on debt restructuring. Also coming up, Fitch Solutions cautions Ghana's fiscal deficit will widen next year due to election year spending.
Across the region will continue to run wide budget deficits in 2024, and that's despite concerted efforts at fiscal consolidation.
Meanwhile, economist Dr. Patrick Kumi warns government's failure to address challenges confronting its public expenditure framework could affect attempts to curb election year spending.
The immediate thing we can do is try and then strengthen our expenditure control measures. And to ensure that people are not spending outside of the budget. That is usually the main source of the overspending that comes.
My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for joining us. Details coming up. Staying with us, everyone. First up, the International Monetary Fund has once again revised the date for the board meeting on the review of Ghana's program and the disbursement of the second tranche of bailout package to the first week of December. This is what Joy Business has picked up from persons with knowledge of Ghana's program with the fund. Here's George Jaffe with more.
The move is more of a precautionary measure to deal with fresh concerns coming from China over the December 22 cut-off date for restructuring its debt. China rather wants March 2020 as a date that all funds that it has given to Ghana to be restructured. The IMF board's new date is to ensure that by that time all these concerns have been addressed. Sources say the action has nothing to do with Ghana not meeting the targets set under the program for fresh disbursement. The fund had initially set November 29 as a new date for the board to meet on Ghana from the Wednesday date of November 22, 2023. However, this new date is what Joy Business has picked up from persons working on the program. Sources say the fund is not looking at the full agreement to be reached between Ghana and the official creditor committee co-chaired by France and China, but rather just a letter of comfort that they have agreed on the terms to begin discussions to restructure Ghana's debts. Government, on the other hand, is optimistic that this letter of comfort may come way before the date that the board has set to review Ghana's program for fresh disbursements.
Now, Fitch Solutions expects Ghana's fiscal deficit to widen next year due to election spending. This is despite the International Monetary Fund program. According to the UK-based firm, the fiscal deficit will be more than 7% in relation to the size of the economy, suggesting the economic challenges are far from over. Government in the 2024 budget projected a deficit of 5.9% of gross domestic product, about 61.9 billion cedis. Fitch Solutions says most of the deficit will be financed by increased domestic borrowing, thus crowding out lending to the private sector and posing risks to macroeconomic and banking sector stability. Here's Austin Gard, country risk analyst, Sub-Saharan Africa at Fitch Solutions.
We expect that governments across the region will continue to run wide budget deficits in 2024, and that's despite concerted efforts at fiscal consolidation. In most markets, the primary cause of this will be increased spending on debt servicing, which is expected to remain elevated as a proportion of revenue due to higher global and domestic interest rates. So indeed, while interest payments as a proportion of government revenue averaged 22% in sub-Saharan Africa between 2013 and 2022, we project that this will increase to 41.3% this year and will remain elevated at 38.7% in 2024. So in some markets, idiosyncratic factors will also play a role in keeping budget deficits wide. So in Ghana, for example, we actually expect the fiscal deficit to widen next year. And this will be a result of election-related spending, with history showing that the government tends to overrun spending targets during election years, and that's even when under an IMF program.
Now, finance and economics lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Patrick Kumi, says a failure by government to address challenges confronting its public expenditure framework will continue to affect the fiscals of the economy. He says these loopholes will always throw government out of its budget going into the 2024 elections. Interacting with Joy Business's James Ishan at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, Dr. Isumi stressed on the need for more expenditure cuts.
There are long-term things we can do and there are short-term things we can do. I think over the long term, really, the political business cycle is a result of the governance system that we run. A governance system that gives always an incentive to the ruling government to try and overspend. So that's one part. But the other thing is that we have our fiscal or our public expenditure framework has a lot of loopholes that allow political actors to spend outside of the budget. So I think that is the immediate thing we can do is try and then strengthen our expenditure control measures. And to ensure that people are not spending outside of the budget. That is usually the main source of the overspending that comes. People making expenditures outside of the ones that are approved by the budget.
Talking about expenditure and looking at the budget, what we've seen so far, what was being read in the budget, do you think we are making headway somewhere?
Well, that's for next year. I mean, for this year, I've been pleasantly surprised that we've kept expenditure under wraps, especially when the revenue has underperformed. We've seen that because the revenue is underperforming, the government has managed to rein in expenditure. Although my preference would have been the expenditure cuts would have come from the wages and salaries and compensation. As it is, most of the cuts have been coming from capital expenditure, which has implications for our long-term growth. But at least we've seen that the government is trying to keep the fiscal deficit under wraps, so hopefully that will continue.
Now, Doc, let me bring you to that of the cedi. We've had the Association of Forex Bureaus saying going to the festive season, there's a likelihood the cedi will depreciate. The cedi is now hovering around 12 cedis thereabouts. What is your expectation going into the festive season, basically?
Well, I think we begin to see wobbles, as you are saying, and so we go to the festive season, we go to the reporting season, and then so the pressure is likely to come to bear on the currency, except if we're able to finalize the cocoa syndicated loan, which will bring us some relief, will help us with the reserves, and also if the second tranche of the IMF comes on board, then it might help. But we know that those ones are short-term fixes. In the long term, everybody knows what we have to do. We have to broaden our export base, and we have to do more import substitution. We have to reduce our dependence on foreign financing. When foreigners are bringing the money, we are happy and we are singing. When it's time for them to take the money out, we see that the currency is wobbling. So I think over the long term, we have to diversify our export base. We have to do more domestic production and cut our imports, and then reduce our dependence on foreign money.
About this repatriation of profits, how do we ensure that these companies or multinational companies sort of keep some of these profits, and what are some of the ways forward? It
starts with the laws. I mean, if you look at our investment laws, we are too generous. But that is in itself is because we have an orientation that without foreign money, the economy cannot grow. That is a problem. We have to change our mindset and begin to say that no, we have to look inward. And looking inward, of course, means that we have to ensure that we are collecting the taxes. That doesn't necessarily mean imposing more indirect taxes, but ensuring that we modernize the economy, and then we use the digitization efforts to expand the tax base, make sure that more of the informal sector is paying the taxes. If we do that, and we change our orientation to say, okay, we have to look within Ghana and start implementing some of the ideas in Ghana beyond aid, then that will ensure that, if you are always in need of foreign financing, then you always find a way to give them the incentive to bring them in. And one of the incentives we give is that, hey, when you make profit, we allow you to freely repatriate them. So that is where we have to tackle. We have to start by focusing more on domestic resource mobilization.
All right, Information Minister Kojo Ponkoma says the 2024 budget will stabilize the economy and spur growth. According to the minister, who kick-started the debate on the budget in Parliament, He said significant measures have been announced to bring down the cost of living and reduce inflation to 15% by the end of 2024. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwawu Asante joins us from there. Good afternoon to you, Kwawu. Talk to us a bit more about what the Information Minister has been saying, and for that matter, those on the majority side.
Well, it's been a really fiery debate, which is still ongoing on the floor as I speak. The Information Minister, like you rightly said, Kojo Ponguma, kicked off the debate in Parliament and on behalf of the majority. He says that the 2024 budget is going to focus on growth. It is going to focus on reducing the cost of living. And then ultimately, it is going to put Ghanaians back on the path of prosperity and growth. And that is what this budget is going to do. He has also been taking on the minority's claim that this budget is empty and useless. In fact, the minority leader, Dr. Kisela Tuforsin, in an interview with Evans Mensah on PM Express, had claimed that the budget was literally useless and empty. But Kojo Ponguma took that view on and said they should debate the specifics in the budget that they believe is empty and take that on. And so he has been doing that. We've also heard from Isaac Adongo, who has almost always during this budget debates been introducing a certain football element. Last year, he spoke about Harry Maguire of Manchester United and compared him to the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and claimed that the Vice President was just like Harry Maguire. He was actually scoring on goals. Today, he says he has an apology for Harry Maguire because he believes Harry Maguire is a better defender than Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a better manager of the economy. And so he has been taking on that. Abeno Siasari, the Deputy Finance Minister, has also been talking about the NDC's pension, as he puts it, to actually run down the budget. He says the NDC is acting irresponsibly and that they must come together with the majority to be able to support the government, to be able to deliver on the promises they've made to government. And just gone by, we've heard from John Jinapo, the ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee, also a member of the Finance Committee, who has also been pivoting and talking about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. It appears the NDC strategy to debate this budget is to focus on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as chair of the economic management, especially because we are going into the 2024 election. And Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is now the flag bearer of the new patriotic party. So the NDC's point on the economy has been that the government has mishandled it, it has run it down, and the NPP must be given a way out in 2024. And Dr. Stephen Amwa, the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, is currently on the floor debating, and their view is that this budget has what it takes to turn the tide, and the Finance Minister claimed that the economy has turned the corner. Is indeed true.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the 2024 elections. Of critical concern is how the government intends to keep within the budget in an election year. Have those concerns come up?
It has come up quite strongly. We heard from the minority leader on the day the budget was presented, make the point that government should be careful not to overspend. And in fact, John Jinapo, just gone by, has been talking about the budget deficit we are likely to see in 2024. He talks about how much government is expecting to raise and how much government is expected to do. In fact, if you do the math, that is about 50 billion in terms of deficit that government has to finance through loans and other borrowing mechanisms. He says that is not something that the government should be doing, and that he was expecting that government will cut its quote according to its size. If you are only able to raise 170 billion, why are you planning on spending 220? Why don't you spend exactly what you are going to be able to raise? And that is the point the minorities have been making. The part on government side has also been that budget deficit has always been with the economy. And in all even the advanced economy, the budget deficit is always going to feature. What is important is the way government is seeking to finance those deficits. Although government is going to borrow to fill in those gaps, they say the terms are way better than the debt that were accrued under the NDC between 2009 and 2017 when John Mahama left office. So it's been quite a spirited debate on both sides. A few times it's spiraled into politics, but both sides have stuck to their guns, making the point as to which of them is better managers of the economy within the space of time that they all manage the economy.
All right, keep following that for us. Thank you so much. Kwawu Asante is a parliamentary correspondent following the debate on the 2024 budget there. Well, let's move on to other stories. Flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, has assured the Customs Amendment Act 2020 will be reviewed to enable the importation of salvage vehicles. Though the implementation of the act is suspended, the former president believes it will negatively impact artisans and the transport business. Nanaya Aljima was at the Techiman market where Mr. Mahama engaged with economic groupings in the area.
The Building Ghana tour is characterized by town hall meetings focused on documenting challenges of various groups. Artisans at the Techiman magazine expressed disaffection with the Customs Amendment Act. The act, among other things, provides incentives for automobile manufacturers and assembling firms registered under the Ghana Automotive Manufacturers Program. It prohibits importation of salvaged motor vehicles and cars over 10 years of age into Ghana. But John Mahama believes the ban on salvaged cars could be limited to government agencies. Since government purchase cars more than any individual and also have the purchasing power, they should buy from the assembling plants so that they can also make profits.
Use one na ebano ene esu yenya kakra etimito. Nti samra mode atoso say yemfa home use.
For those who can't buy new cars, they will have to import the salvaged ones. When we return to power, we will make sure that we make changes in the act.
If we say sa use cars no ebi apem kakrebi.
To modernize the vehicle mechanic trade, the former president admitted the need to train artisans in modern technology for the business. He explains plans of the NDC government when it regains power.
Abraham, your vice president, your name magazine for Ewo Kumasi Smido, your friend.
When I was vice president, we partnered with Smido at Some Magazine to construct a training center and equip it with all modern machinery to aid training of apprentices.
And also Ejumanibi. Senebeya, Enkobase, Emrebi Bedruwa, Yadekaba, Unhunya, Oye. And she and also Eyadia, was a Yeshe.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mahama has insisted on the legalization of tricycle business.
NDC agrees a sign. You buy a bel legalize Pragiani or Okada. Naya regulating.
Now, out of the 47 countries that have ratified their instruments under the African Continental Free Trade Area, only 7 countries have so far begun trading amongst themselves under the pact. Ghana, Cameroon, Kenya, Egypt, and 3 others have all received certificates of origin to trade freely without trade barriers. Ceramics, tea, and AC components are but some of the few items that are being traded under AfTA. Speaking to Joy Business at the joint ECOWAS North Africa Multi-Stakeholder Forum on AfTA, Special Advisor to the Secretary General, Peter Joy Sewonu, said the Secretariat is hopeful of increasing the numbers to about 30 by next year. Here's more.
The Regional Multi-Stakeholders Forum, which is being organized by Third World Network Africa, seeks to strengthen alliances, share information and perspectives on Africa, as well as fashion out agenda for future engagements among stakeholders and civil organizations in ECOWAS and North Africa. Speaking to Joy Business, Special Advisor to the Secretary General of AfTA, Peter Joy Sewonu, said, despite the challenges being faced, enough progress has been made to realize the optimization of the trade pact. He added that, so far, only 7 out of the 47 countries that have ratified are trading among themselves.
So where we are currently, we have 47 countries that are state parties to the agreement establishing the AFCFTA. Another thing we are also doing is also getting the countries to trade. So what we've introduced, or what His Excellency the Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat has introduced, is something we call the AFCFTA Guided Trade Initiative. So that is just getting the countries to actually start trading. So what we've done is to start with 7 countries. So 7 of our countries, they have certificates of origin, they have customs procedures in place, and they've actually started trading.
Economist Dr. Patrick Kumi called on government to be deliberate with its trade laws to ensure local businesses leverage on the potential of the AfTA.
So the question is, what programs have you put in place to ensure that Ghanaian businesses are strategically positioned to make sure that when implementation is in full force, we are ready? And I think that is That's where the big thing is. And so you have to think about our own competitiveness, the competitiveness of Ghanaian businesses, and that comes from policy. Then, so there's what has to happen among the continental bodies in terms of easing the, or easing the bureaucracy and the restrictions on doing business across borders.
The forum, which is a 3-day event, will bring together civil society organizations, key private sector players, women organizations, trade unions, amongst others. For Joy Business, Pius Kojubaka.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Marketplace. Now, government says it will demystify the business environment through its regulatory framework set to be presented to Parliament for approval. According to Trade and Industry Minister Katie Hammond, his outfit is committed to supporting private sector businesses through technology to thrive and contribute to the country's economic growth. He was speaking at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce end-of-year gala dinner and awards for businesses.
The Trade and Industry Minister Katie Hammond said his outfit is committed to supporting private sector businesses through technology to thrive and contribute to the country's economic growth. He reiterated government's commitment to cushioning local businesses to take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
This economic transformation is private sector led. This is because Ghana, like many other countries, recognizes the pivotal role that a stronger partnership between the government and the private sector plays in fostering economic growth, innovation, and sustainable development. This transformation is about creating an environment where businesses can thrive, where innovation is encouraged, and where opportunities are abundant. The vision of self-reliance and economic independence, where Ghana takes its rightful place on the global stage as a beacon of growth and prosperity.
Executive Director at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Ajoba Chiama, said the outfit will deepen its trade relations with the United Kingdom.
So it's been an amazing night of celebration, celebrating our member companies, celebrating our chamber, and also celebrating UK-Ghana trading relations, which dates back over several decades. And all of the winners are deserving award winners, outstanding businesses in our membership who are contributing so much to the economy of Ghana and have strengthened the trading relations between Ghana and the UK. I'm also especially pleased about the entries that we received, even from amongst the wholly owned Ghanaian businesses who do not necessarily have trading relations with the UK, but are proud to be members of our chamber.
The UK GCC, established in 2016 in Ghana, has promoted trade between the UK and Ghana.
Now, government has been entreated to incentivize businesses to invest in education and research. This, according to the founder of the Kwawu Business School, Bishop Gideon Titiofe, will help bridge the gap between academia and industry. He suggested that this can be done through effective policies to help solve the unemployment menace in the country. Bishop Titiofe was speaking at the 15th congregation of Kwawu Business School.
Supportive policies from our government are crucial. We urge the government to formulate policies that promote the integration of academic learning with industry needs. Such policies can provide incentives for businesses to invest in educational partnerships, research and development initiatives, creating a fertile ground for innovation and economic growth. By aligning our educational practices with industry needs and fostering government support, Kwawu Business School is not just educating the next generation of leaders, we are actively contributing to solving Ghana's economic woes. Let us continue this journey together for a stronger and more prosperous Ghana.
All right, and before we go, let's just bring you up to speed on what's trending on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We've got the day's latest stories there for you to check out as we conclude this bulletin. Okay, all right, that's it, myjoyonline.com/business. Check out the day's latest stories there. If we could scroll and get the headline story on that website. Okay. That is taking a bit of time, but cedi to record single-digit depreciation against dollar in 2024. That's according to the EIU. Ghana's fiscal deficit to widen in 2024. Fitch Solutions, we brought you that story this afternoon. So you can read more on those stories and others, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.